أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. Respected brothers, friends, in particular Moulana Muhammad Sayyid Banoo, and of course our dear friend who wrote the book around the life of Moulana Muhammad Sayyid Banoo, Brother Ismail Wadi. I greet you all. Assalamu alaikum. It is really a pleasure to be able to address you all. Ideally, it would have been good if I could have attended in person, but because of age and difficulties in traveling, I've been avoiding to travel. So, but Jazakallah for the opportunity. Moulana Sayyid Banoo and I come a very long way. I went from Cape Town to India in 1960 to further my studies at Nadwatul-Ulama, and a year or two afterwards, Moulana Sayyid Banoo also arrived at Nadwatul-Ulama in Lucknow, India, to study at the same institution, and we became very close friends since then, and we have been keeping in touch. We studied together for almost 10 years, and from there, at different times, he came a little earlier, I followed, or I came a little earlier than him, and then he followed. But the unique feature of our friendship and our stay was our relationship with our spiritual guide and mentor, Sheikh Moulana Abul Hasan Ali al-Nadwi, and his nephew after him, Moulana Muhammad Rabi, who just passed away very recently. The audience, many of you would know of both these great scholars. And the fact that we went to Nadwatul-Ulama was because of the little that we had come to know of this institution through people that had studied there, in particular Moulana Razak from Ladysmith, as well as Moulana Umarji, who actually studied in Deoband, but they also had come to know of Nadwatul-Ulama. Initially, we entered the Khususi course, the special course, which was a course at the Darul Uloom, reduced to 4 years, particularly to make it easier for the foreign students. However, when we became disciples and got associated with Sheikh Abul Hasan Ali al-Nadwi, we had a different program than most of the other students. We spent a lot of time with Moulana in his village, Takia in Raebareli, not far from Nadwatul-Ulama, and we served him as his khadims in different times during those 10 years. We learned a lot from him, and we learned much about Darul Nadwatul-Ulama during those years. Nadwatul-Ulama was formed as an organization of ulama. It was formed in 1893. And after 5 years, in 1898, they decided to form a Darul Uloom as an outcome of their discussions and meetings that they used to have during those 5 years. It started in Kanpur, not very far from Lucknow, which is the capital city of Uttar Pradesh in India. And many people don't know that the founding scholars of the Darul Uloom included the first principal, the first rector, Moulana Muhammad Ali Mungeri, but the ulama who decided to start the Darul Uloom included Moulana Thanvi Rahmatullah, Moulana Gangoi, Moulana Ahmad Hassan, great scholars of that time, Moulana Madani. In fact, the whole senior personnel of Darul Deoband were part of Nadwatul-Ulama, And up to today, in the organization, Nadwatul-Ulama, all these institutions from Delhi and the Jamaat group and Deoband and Saharanpur, all are involved up to today, and vice versa. The scholars from Nadwa are involved in those institutions. So it forms one strong group of institutions and groups of alim. And the reason why Nadwatul-Ulama was started was to equip the ulama to be ready for the new challenges that the British, they knew their time would be up, although it took about 50 years to happen in essence, but something had to be done to counter them. And the emergence and the talk around the formation of Aligarh had also started, and they realized that they need another additional Darul besides Deoband, not in opposition to Deoband, but in addition, not to replace Deoband or in any way, but as an additional Darul so that the ulama could receive more hands-on knowledge of current affairs, not that the ulama of Deoband didn't know current affairs, and the ability to counter the colonial agenda of the British government, which was an essential component. And that service of Nadwa has been unique since it started in 1898. The ulama of Nadwatul-Ulama have contributed globally, especially in the way of teaching tafsir directly from the Quran and the Siyasita, Bukhari, Muslim, all the 6 authentic books that are taught also at Darul Fiqh, they're having a Darul Ifta, all that. But the ability, because of the proficiency and extra emphasis on Arabic, not as a classical language, but also as a conversational, a spoken language, gave a little more edge to the products and the graduates of Nadwatul-Ulama. They also were encouraged to learn English to be able to do the work and understand how the West works, and to be more closer to academic, or rather Western formulated subjects, which was actually in many ways quite harmful. So a revival of Islamic education in terms of the education that takes place in universities was the thrust of Nadwatul-Ulama's work. And in the process, Nadwatul-Ulama contributed in many, many organizations, both politically and academically. And many of their books in Arabic, for the teaching of Arabic, are even taught up to today in several universities in the Arab world. But with the new trends, things are changing, and they might not be teaching these books any longer. So Nadwatul-Ulama has played a great role. Both Moulana Sayyid Banoo and myself have learned a lot from the Nadwa movement and how they do things, and therefore both of us have been involved in after our return to South Africa in education. Moulana, we had contributed very uniquely in the madaris of Lenasia and Gauteng and Cape Town and KZN, especially the afternoon madrasas, the series of textbooks and other works. And then when the Muslim school phenomena started in South Africa in 1984, when Islamia College, then the Habibia Girls College, opened in 1984. Since then, Moulana has been involved even in the Islamic studies curriculum of Muslim schools in South Africa and globally. And Moulana's main contribution in the Indian context was the writing of a very simple book on basic Islamic knowledge in Urdu, so that the children in the various masajid in all over India could learn the basics, and even adults could learn the basics. It's a very unique contribution of Moulana Banoo, which many people don't know. I can go on talking about Moulana Banoo, but the book is there for you to read. My foreword is there in the book as well. And inshallah, whoever reads the book and looks at it will definitely benefit from reading it. And also, what I've been trying to emphasize, that people, especially the ulama fraternity, should know and read about the mission of Nadwatul-Ulama, which included Maulana Thanvi, it included the founders of Deoband, it included particularly Hazrat Shaykh al-Hadith, Maulana Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi, Hazrat Maulana Ilyas Sahab rahmatullah alayhi, Hazrat Ji Maulana Yusuf Sahab rahmatullah, Hazrat Ji Maulana Inam al-Hasan, and Qari Tayyib Sahab, all these great scholars of India, Maulana Thanvi, Maulana Madani, Shaykh al-Hind, Mahmud al-Hasan, and Shaykh al-Islam, Khalil Ahmad Saranpuri, all these scholars. We need to start working together as much as possible. We need to look at the contribution of Maulana Banoo. We also have to realize that Maulana Banoo tried to do things very quietly and on his own. And maybe with that approach, he may not have reached everybody, but he was also sometimes victimized through misunderstandings, but I'm sure his work is known to the people. He's done tremendously for Islamic education overseas, locally, and he's a person that is unassuming. You don't realize his intellectual capacity, and sometimes we don't always appreciate our ulama, and that is one of the weaknesses in our ummah, that alims are respected, but very few of them are followed in terms of listening to their advice and listening to their contribution and what they can contribute to. And Maulana Banoo's other quality was he was fairly independent, always kept in independence, kept away from running after wealth, led his humble life, and we are very, very close friends. We work, and in our understanding of Sheikh Abul Hasan Ali Nadwi's mission and his ideas or his view and his following of Tasawwuf, we are his disciples, and we then went on to work with Maulana Muhammad Rabi, who took over from Sheikh Abul Hasan Ali Nadwi. He was his nephew. And I can go on and on. I'm just speaking of a few things at random, but I hope that this gathering of today, of the launch of the book, will be a very blessed one. My du'as are with all of you, and inshallah, I really hope that we all can learn and benefit from the function that is having. In conclusion, I must thank Brother Ismail Wadi for his effort for coming to Cape Town to interview me and doing this work. He's doing sterling work. I've never looked at him as a politician. I've looked at him as a Muslim, and he's a fine example of a Muslim who is in touch with today's whether it's politics or dini work or religious work. And these are the kind of people we need in the community. We need this outstanding ulama. And Jazakumullah everybody for listening to me, and I hope that the function will be a super success. Jazakumullah everybody.